After severow crazy months in February, March, and April, the Edmonton real estate market is clearly slowing down. Sales are down and prices have flattened, but that's not the whole story. Join me as I review the latest market report and press release from the Realtors Association of Edmonton. So in this report, I'm going to be looking at both the greater Edmonton area, which includes Edmonton and all the surrounding communities and suburbs, and also just the city of Edmonton, since the stats will look a little bit different depending on what you're looking at. So jumping right in, we'll start with the residential statistics for the greater Edmonton area. So that's the larger area. And this is using the latest statistics available. So it's basically the month of May. So we'll start over here with the selling price. The average sales price for all homes and all condos and everything in the greater Edmonton area was $410,000, which is actually down 1.9% from last month, but still up 2.2% from last year. If we look at the median sales price instead, which is basically that midpoint number, 50% of the homes sold over that and 50% of the homes sold below that. That was $392,000, which was down 1.4% month over month, but up 4.5% year over year. Now, if we just jump into the specific types of properties like single family homes, the average was $492,000, which is down 3.8% from last month and up 5.7% from last year. And the median sales price for single family homes was sitting at $455,000, which was down 2.4% from last month and up 7.1% from last year. Now, if we look at condos, the average was $239,000, which was just up a little bit, 0.3% from last month, but down 1.2% from last year. And the median sales price for a condo was $220,000, which was down 0.2% from last month and down 3% from last year. Now, if we go and look at duplexes and row houses, the average price for the greater Edmonton area was $396,000, which was down 3.3% month over month and up 10.5% year over year. And the median sales price was $384,000, which is down 0.8% month over month and up 12.9% year over year. Now, if we go and look at the new listings volume, we are at 4,711 for May, which was up 2.1% month over month. So there's a little bit more listings that came on in May compared to April. And so far for the year, there's been 19,000 new listings, which is up 13.1% from last year. Now, if we're looking over at the sales volume, this is the actual number of properties that are selling. We had 2,857 sell in the greater Edmonton area, which is just down a little bit, 1.6% from last month, but still up from last year with 13,000 sales for the year, which is 4.4% higher than where we were at this time last year. Total inventory at the end of the month, at the end of May, was sitting at 7,546. If you just look at the high rollers, this is the highest selling properties. Highest sold price was $3.7 million for a single family, $1,398,000 for a condo, and $1.1 million for a duplex row house. Now, if you just look at the average days on market, we're still less than we were last year. So single family is selling in 23 days on average compared to 28 days last year. Condos are selling in 44 days on average compared to 48 last year. Duplexes and row houses are selling for 25 days instead of 32 days, which we had last year. And for the whole market, it's 29 days versus 33 days last year. So even though things are starting to slow down and we're seeing some drops in the average and median prices and sales volume is down a little bit, the market is still quite robust if you look at the greater Edmonton area. Now let's look at just Edmonton's stats for the same type of information. So if we look at all residential, the average price in Edmonton was $407,000, which was also down 1.6% from last month, but up 0.8% from last year. The median price was sitting at $387,000, which is basically the same, a 0% change month over month, but up 3.8% from last year. Now, for single family homes, the average price was $499,000, which is down 4% from last month, but up 4.8% from last year. And the median price was sitting at $460,000, which is down 2.1% from last month, but up 7.2% from last year. Now, if we go and look at condos, the average price was $235,000, which was up 0.6% from last month and up 1.4% from last year. The median price was $215,000, which was a 0% change month over month and down 2.3% year over year. Over at duplex and row houses, We were sitting at $415,000 average price, which was down 2.8% month over month and up 12.3% year over year. And the median price was sitting at $396,000, which was up 0.3% month over month and up 14.4% year over year. This would be a good opportunity to point out that the median and average prices can be a little bit misleading. Just because the average price is down or the median price is down, it doesn't automatically mean that the value of a particular house reduced by that same amount or by that percentage. It could just mean that the market is shifting and more sales are happening at a lower dollar value. And that would make sense given what's going on in the market. We've been having interest rates rise quite dramatically in a short period of time, and that starts to eat away at the buying power of a lot of buyers out there. So perhaps instead of buying a $400,000 house or a $450,000 house, maybe now there's more people buying a $375,000 house or a $350,000 house. As interest rates rise, and that starts to eat into more people's buying power, I think we're gonna see more people buying a cheaper house than they would have before, and that can start to reduce the average price since you're gonna have more properties selling at a lower dollar value. I do think that type of shift in the market can also affect the real value of a particular piece of property, but it's probably not as dramatic as what we're seeing in these numbers. Not like these are dramatic numbers, seeing a 2% change and whatnot. It's not a huge change, but it can feel like a huge change considering in February and March we were seeing price gains, and then now all of a sudden we're seeing price reductions or price drops in terms of average and median price. So just wanted to give a little bit more context around that. And of course, if you're curious about buying or selling a home in Edmonton, I can give you more specific guidance if I get to talk to you and learn about your unique situation, whether you're buying or selling, the price point, the type of property, and I can give you a little bit better insight on where that market segment is going instead of just an overall view like what you're getting in this video. So if that's you, I recommend reaching out to me at 780-819-5508. You can either text me or call me, or you can email me at trevor@trevortardif.com, or go to booktrevornow.com, select a time on my calendar, and then I will call you. Okay, so let's get right back into the statistics here. So again, looking at Edmonton, new listings, for the month of May, there was 3,585 listings, which was up 4.1% month over month. And we're sitting at 14,000 new listings for the year so far, which is up 15.6% for the year. Now, if we go over and look at sales, we had 1,979 sales, which was down 6% from last month. And we had 9,122 sales for the year, which is still up 4.1% for the year. So even though we're down 6% compared to last month, we're still up for the year, and last year was a great year as well for sales volume, so it can be important to kind of put that in perspective. Like, even though the market is slowing down, it doesn't necessarily mean that the market is getting like murdered or anything out there. It's still a strong sales numbers. We've peaked, we've hit the peak, and we're not selling at the same sort of velocity. We were sitting at 6,042 active listings at the end of the month. If you look over at the high rollers, that's the same as what it was for the greater Edmonton area. So I won't go into those. Now, if we look at comparing single family homes, this year we've had 23 days on market for this month compared to 27 last year. Condos are sitting at 45 compared to 49 last year. Duplexes and row houses were sitting at 24 days average on market compared to 32 last year. And the market as a whole is sitting at 30 days on market compared to 34 last year. So again, just even though we've seen a drop in sales volume, and we've seen some drops in median and average sales prices, stuff is still selling on average faster than it did last year. So that's an important piece of information. Now, if we go and look at some of the stats again for the greater Edmonton area, this one is going to be looking at the home price index first. This is a better indicator of the value trend compared to average or median, since it's taking a benchmark property, which is essentially a property that they've identified as being sort of like the most representative of what a detached home that's the benchmark home would represent in the market as a whole. I sometimes think of it as almost like the most common property in a way, and then they're tracking the value of that property over time. And so if you take the whole greater Edmonton area, They have a benchmark price of $417,000 for the month of May, which was a 0% change month over month, but it's still up 9.2% year over year. And if you look over here on the right, you can see the benchmark price trend, and you can basically see that we had some gains last year in May and June, and it looks like it sort of flattened out in July, then it went down a little bit, and we kind of hit a low in December 2021, and then we had a pretty good run January, February, March, and by April, it still went up from March to April, but we're basically staying flat now. And that's how I would describe the market, is that it's kind of flattened out. And if you watched my last video, I talked about, is the Edmonton real estate market crashing? I definitely recommend checking out that video for more context on what's going on, because there is a big shift going on right now, but the market is not crashing, at least not yet. So check out that other video. I'll put a link here and you can check it out. But what you can see from this, looking at the benchmark price, is that prices have essentially flattened at this point. So we're not seeing a lot of upward pressure on prices like we did in February, March, and April. So that's going to be good news for buyers out there that maybe lost out on a bunch of properties or just found it very stressful. You're not going to have as many people bidding on a property. Stuff in more attractive price points, like under 500, under 450, under 400,000, those are going to have more activity on them. And you're still, if it's a desirable property, it's not uncommon for them to still sell in like that first week and to have 2 or 3 offers that come in, but it's a lot less likely to have like 10 offers or something like that, where the price is really going to get bid up. The prices did get pushed up in February, March, and April. As of right now, they're still sort of stabilizing. So we shouldn't be seeing any big increases at this point in the market. So if you are considering selling, especially if you're not buying another property, if you were waiting to ride the wave, definitely would consider selling now, because I think we've definitely peaked for the year, more than likely. And there is the potential, if the market continues to shift, that we could start to see prices drop a little bit in the coming months. So if you're on the sidelines about trying to sell and trying to maximize your sales price, now might be the time. So let's look a little bit more at some of these stats. So the average price was $410,000. I think we already talked about these on the other one, which was down 1.9%. So you can see there's a difference between the average and the benchmark price. The benchmark is better for actual tracking of the value. And you got the median was sitting at $392, which was also down. The benchmark price for a single family home in the greater Edmonton area was $473,000, which is just down 0.1% month over month. So I would still consider that pretty flat, even though technically it's a reduction, but we're still up 9.9% for the year. For apartments, the benchmark price was sitting at $190,000, which was up 0.5% from last month and down 0.3% from last year. And townhouses were sitting at $255,000, which was up 1.9% month over month and up 7.4% year over year. So that's sort of a bit of the outlier here. We saw a decent gain in the benchmark price for townhouses. The single family home market did get hot before townhouses did, so I think it's taking a little bit longer for the activity in the townhouse market to peak. If you go and watch that other video I talked about, I do show how each segment of the market is in either a seller's market, a balanced market, or a buyer's market. And we have different segments that are in all 3 of those categories. So I definitely check out that video for more context. Okay, so now let's look at it just for Edmonton now. So the benchmark price for Edmonton as a whole was sitting at $412,000, which again, flattened with a 0% change from last month. We're still up 9.6% for the year, and you can see on the right that the benchmark price trend is essentially the same for Edmonton as it is for the greater Edmonton area. Obviously, Edmonton has the most weight if you're looking at the greater Edmonton area. The prices are going to be a little bit different, but generally they're going to follow the same trend. Now, the single family home benchmark price in Edmonton was sitting at $482,000, which is just down a little bit from last month, down 0.2%. But we're still sitting up 10.3% from last year. And the benchmark price for apartments were $185,000, which is up 0.4% from last month and down 0.8% from last year. And the townhouses are sitting at $249,000, which is up 2.5% month over month and up 8.6% for the year. Okay, so over here is just the press release that kind of went with it from the Realtors Association of Edmonton. And kind of one of the main highlights that they made here that the Realtors Association of Edmonton chair said was that we're starting to see a slowdown of the real estate market in the greater Edmonton area as we head into the early days of summer. He also mentioned that while we continue to see a lot of activity in the market, we're not seeing as big of month-to-month changes for pricing, sales, and days on market that we did earlier in the year. So I agree with that. But yeah, it's definitely a shifting market out there. Again, I recommend you reach out to me directly at 780-819-5508. Either text me or call me if you'd like to get a little bit more specific advice and guidance. And don't hesitate to call. I'd like to help you however I can, wherever you are in your process. I know some people are months or sometimes even years away, so I don't mind helping you in the meantime. And of course, if you like this video, make sure to subscribe. If you click over here, you can subscribe so you never miss another video. And you can also click over here to watch other videos about the Edmonton real estate market. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you on the next video.